President-elect Donald Trump and his team slamming Hillary Clinton's campaign for officially joining the recount effort in up to 3 states. This as election officials in Wisconsin meet today to discuss a potential timeline. Senior Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway not holding back. She's calling Hillary's camp a pack of sore losers and more.
Their president, Barack Obama, is going to be in office for 8 more weeks, and they have to decide whether they're going to interfere with him finishing his business, interfere with the peaceful transfer of power to President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Pence, or if they're going to be a bunch of crybabies and sore losers about an election that they can't turn around.
And in a series of tweets, President-elect Trump throwing Hillary's own words right back at her, saying in one tweet, Hillary Clinton conceded the election when she called me just prior to the victory speech and after the results were in. Nothing will change. And if you recall, Hillary sang a much different tune in the debates and on the campaign trail after Mr. Trump said he might not accept the election results. Watch.
That's horrifying. You know, every time Donald thinks things are not going in his direction, he claims whatever it is rigged against him. We've been around for 240 years. We've had free and fair elections. We've accepted the outcomes when we may not have liked them.
He refused to say that he would respect the results of this election. By doing that, he is threatening our democracy.
All right, Pete, I was literally laughing in my parents' kitchen all weekend about Jill Stein getting so much money. Yeah. I was like, what sucker is giving this woman money to do a recount? Listen, are liberals only okay with elections being rigged as long as they are losing?
Of course. I mean, this is an extension of, remember the protest that broke out right after the election, and you asked the protesters what their end state is, and they're like, well, no Trump, and they're like, well, Trump won. Same thing here. Jill Stein got 1% of the vote nationally in 4th place in Wisconsin, where she's challenging it. And even Hillary Clinton's campaign has acknowledged that no one's ever overcome the types of margins that exist in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and what's the other state? I don't know that they're challenging. Michigan. That they're challenging right now. They also said there's no evidence in fraud of those states. So this is an absolute nothing burger. Jill Stein's raising money for Jill Stein and the Green Party and self-promotion. This will go nowhere, and I think it is an extension of them just being sore losers. They refuse to want to accept that Donald Trump is going to be president.
Bless your bones, but it is so much bigger than that. This is not just Jill Stein. Jill Stein is being used as a pawn here because she's the only one who could launch this sort of recount effort and keep Hillary Clinton's hands clean.
And by the way, she's on your show tonight.
Who was not able to raise more than $3.5 million over an entire year in a presidential cycle when she had the highest profile campaign of any Green Party candidate since Ralph Nader. All of a sudden, she can raise $5 million in less than a week.
Stop upsetting her like that. She's losing her voice.
First of all, I agree. Second of all, I agree with you.
You've given me the paper.
She's also the...
This is not just about Jill Stein. She's being used by Democrats who don't want to get their hands dirty. They want to make sure that Hillary Clinton is shielded, and they're conveniently saying, well, we weren't going to ask for a recount, but now that you're talking about one, I guess we'll get in on the action. It's a little too pat, and it smells fishier than a carp and a car trunk in August.
Oh my gosh.
I can't disagree with that.
But and we should point out, it's not only that the Clinton campaign has said that they don't find any actionable evidence of vote hacking, but the Obama administration said that more than once over the weekend. They said the elections were free and fair from a cybersecurity perspective, free of interference regarding malicious cyber activity. So that whole Russian hacking ruse that they rolled out during the DNC isn't playing out, but you still have them challenging this.
And who owns 16 million voting machines?
They're trying to discredit the administration. They're trying to discredit the administration. And this is not, these machines, it's local. It's the Democrats that want to make this a federal voting system. These are local.
Which would be vulnerable then.
Yeah, exactly, when all of them are connected to the internet, which they're not. And if you read the Wall Street Journal, you would know that.
It is not just about Jill Stein, but I will say that she also represents the last vestige of teeny tiny hope that every progressive in this country has, that they can somehow do something about it.
And the hope of the entire Democratic Party and the entire Democratic machine that raised $1 billion for a losing candidate who is now in the woods in Rhode Island taking selfies with drifters.
Never underestimate, though, the level of liberal left-wing idiocy out there in terms of anybody who would throw a dime at Jill Stein or any of this.
If they were going to throw those kind of dimes at Jill Stein, they would have done it during the presidential race.
Could I turn this back to you, Megan? Though, what do you make of Donald Trump's response to this? And should he have even responded or gotten involved.
I don't like any
with
of
his
this.
tweets over the
I think
weekend.
it's absurd and ridiculous that there's any kind of recount being called by Jill Stein or Hillary Clinton or whomever secretly is calling for this. I think it's a pipe dream and a bad fantasy, and people are deluding themselves if they think President Trump isn't about to be inaugurated in January. He is. I think President Trump should focus on putting his cabinet together and talking about making America great. Again, he's really won me over a lot in the past few weeks since he's been elected, and I would like to continue on that path. I think he should choose a Secretary of State somewhat soon. I'm getting to the point where I'm sick of the back and forth. I don't like the infighting. Like I said earlier, I have respect for David Petraeus and Mitt Romney and Mayor Giuliani, and I just would like, you know,
Any one of those three would be
I
solid?
just think the pageantry of going in and out. Obviously, I would prefer Mitt Romney or David Petraeus over Giuliani, just simply.
It's made something boring fascinating, though, to watch.
But it shouldn't. But I
It's like
think
a Pope
actually
watch.
at this point, for those of us who don't want this to be
The
a
black
reality
smoke.
show, it's good for it to go on. And he's presidential now. He should put his cabinet together.
Back to the reality, we actually talked about some of this before the Clinton campaign signed all of these recounts on Friday.
Yeah.
And both political statisticians, Nate Silver and Nate Cohn, have tweeted about this or written about the allegations of vote hacking and rigging in, say, Wisconsin, for example. And two states that use paper ballots, Iowa and Minnesota, this is from Nate Cohn at the New York Times, the results look exactly the same as they do in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
they can be explained
and it was
by
the computer
demographics.
scientists who tried to point out that there was a disparity in voting in counties that had electronic voting versus paper voting. But then, you know, these two men whose lives it is to, you know, wrangle all the numbers and polling data, they say, no, that's actually right in line with a weird election and the strange blanket of constituents that both candidates knit together. Unfortunately for Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump's electoral quilt was just a bit larger.
I just think about the millions given to Jill Stein.
Idiots. There's a sucker born every day. It's
Don't
crazy.
you think about the people you could have actually helped with that money?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think the people who are funding her are big money
I'm sorry, guys, we
Democrats,
gotta move
cronyist
on.
friends of Hillary Clinton.
We got to move on. Liberals, President Trump won fair and square.